Hey everyone, welcome back to Blue Chair Conversations. I'm your host, Erin, and today's a little different. We're pivoting. When I first started this podcast, I had a vision for what it would be. And honestly, life showed me it's okay to shift and grow along the way. So today we're talking about bending without breaking and how sometimes the best thing you can do is give yourself permission, permission to pivot without losing your purpose. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Blue Chair Conversations. I am so grateful that you are here. And we're going to dive into some stuff that might be a little tough to hear, but I want to share honestly with you. I want you to understand that when I started this podcast, I felt clear, but now I'm evolving. Life doesn't always stay on script, and that's a good thing. It's okay for dreams to shift slightly as we grow. So, what does it mean when we want to pivot? You see, when I thought about this podcast a couple of years ago, after this book right here came out, I was like, I need to, actually it didn't come out a couple of years ago. Let's rewind. First, I was invited to my alma mater at Rockhurst University in 2022 to talk to more than 250 student athletes. And I was on a mission to let them understand that they were more. They were more than their sport. They were more than anything that they tied their identity to. And when I stood on that stage and I looked out into that crowd, I was in awe. Here I am back at my alma mater making an impact bigger than I could ever imagine to over 250 student athletes. And I wasn't sure if they were resonating with me. I wasn't sure if they were hearing what I had to say to them or if they were listening at all. But then when I looked in the crowd throughout my talk, I could see them, some tears, flowing down their cheeks. I could see some smiles, contemplating. I could see all the different emotions. And I knew right then and there in that moment that I had more of an impact to make on this world than I ever even imagined myself. So, fast forward to a year, I decided to write a different book. Not this book, but Graceful Growth with my friend Kim White. And it was a beautiful book. And we went through some ups and downs and challenges. But then I knew it was put on my heart to write this book based off of that talk, based off my experience at my alma mater, Rockhurst University, which is in Kansas City. And I knew this book was going to be small, but it was going to be impactful. A lot of impactful things come in small packages. And I knew that I needed some backing on the book because I knew it was important for athletes to understand that they were so much more than their sport. So I reached out. I met Nate Big Easy Lofton of the Harlem Globetrotters, Monte Ball of the Denver Broncos, Robert Gallery of the Oakland Raiders, and Quincy Jones, who is a professional tennis player. All of them retired, but all of them read my book and it impacted them. So I knew it could impact so many more students, athletes, athletic departments, and just people in general. It didn't matter if you were an athlete or played sports. The message was clear. We are more than how we identify. We are so much more than that. And so I knew I needed to do a podcast. And I wanted to call it Blue Chair Conversations because the blue chair had such an impact on me. Little did I know it was going to have an impact on others. The blue chair represents where you can be safe, you can be real, and you're just showing up as yourself, authentically, unscripted, just like this podcast was designed to be. It was designed to have conversations originally with people I was interviewing. And then I kept getting in my own way. I kept saying, I don't know if anybody's going to listen to me, which I've mentioned in my episodes previously. Or do I have enough to say? Or is it going to be impactful enough? But then my mom died. And I knew that life is fleeting. It's short and we have to grab on to the steering wheel, the reins, the ropes, the poles, the whatevers, and live our life fully. Step into it, leap into it, even if we wake up scared or tired or exhausted. But I can tell you, once I made the decision I was going to do my podcast this year, things have been falling into place. But it's not what I thought the podcast was going to be about. Like I said, I thought I was going to be interviewing people. I thought I was going to be having conversations and dive deep into what makes them them. Who are you? And where is your more, right? But then I realized I can do this by myself because I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, the listener from the blue chair. I want us to have our blue chair conversations. I want you to contemplate. I want you to think. I want you to feel the emotions, just as those students did when I spoke on that stage a couple years ago. I've done a couple of speaking gigs since then, and I have been on podcasts. I've done many different things, but I'm stepping into my own, and it's okay to pivot. I thought, I'm pivoting again. I'm changing this. I'm changing that. Why can't I just stick to it? Because that path that I was trying to stick to wasn't the right path. And once I opened up the idea of doing the podcast with me in the blue chair, just talking to my listeners, that's when it all sunk in. We can pivot. Now, I do have a couple of notes. This is an unscripted, authentic conversation, but sometimes you got to have your notes, and that's okay. Seasons come and go. We are in the springtime right now. If you're watching this in the winter, it was recorded in the spring. It's beautiful out. The weather is nice. The flowers are in bloom. The birds are chirping. And every season comes with its own personality. Spring is all about blooming and it's all about growing. Excuse me. Fall is about, falling. It's about rest. Winter is definitely about rest, but fall is about shedding the old so you can then rest, and then here we go, spring, right? I did skip summer though, didn't I? Summer is about really stepping in and leaping and doing the things. But life sometimes feels really heavy. And I had a completely different plan for this episode today, but then I realized I needed to pivot. Life can seem heavy, and it has been heavy for me for quite some time. Job changes, losses, whether it's a loved one or something that you thought you were going to do and didn't do, personal losses, the losses of loved ones, health struggles, and just pure uncertainty. And I'm going through a lot of different seasons within the season of spring right now. And that's why I was like, you know what? It's okay to pivot. Because what I have realized is if you keep trying to go down a path that isn't the right path or in alignment with you, you're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to have detours and accidents and construction. It's like literally driving a car. You might know the path, and then all of a sudden there's construction, there's an accident, there's police sirens, there's weather that makes you go a different way, and you're like, but this was the path I know, the path I thought was the right way. But in fact, life had a different plan, and it wants you to take a detour. It wants you to pivot. And that's exactly what I am deciding to do today, is pivoting with my podcast and the purpose of it. Even though you love something, whether it's work, a role, a title, sometimes it shifts in ways that you can't control. And you're like, man, the first thing for me, and I'm not sure if it's true for you, I look at myself and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I must have messed up somewhere. Why do we always want to blame ourselves? Why do we always want to look at ourselves and say, well, I must have messed up, or something's wrong with me, or, we question who we are. It's easy if something doesn't go perfectly, we feel like we're breaking. But I'm here to tell you, maybe you're just bending with the wind, and you're not breaking. Think about that. Let that sink in. You're not breaking, you're simply bending so you can pivot when life throws you a curveball. And bending is strength. Have you ever seen the beginning of a new tree? and it's itty bitty and it's so vulnerable and it's growing and it's growing, and then the wind comes and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like flopping over, it's gonna snap. But it doesn't. And then time goes on and it gets stronger and sturdier, and it doesn't get bent as much from the wind, but it definitely doesn't break because it learns to adapt. It learns to grow. It learns to pivot where it is. Now, luckily, we're humans and we can pivot and move, but we got to be like a tree and we got to bend with the wind. And it's sometimes very hard to do because there's been many times where roadblocks have been thrown in my path and I'm like, oh, I'm stuck. And I keep looking ahead like this wall or this big flashing red light thing is in front of me. And I'm so focused on it that I forget there's other directions I can go. I can pivot to, I can pivot to the right. I can pivot to the left. I can go back and realign. We got to learn how to pivot. Bending and not breaking means you're flexible. You're flexible enough to survive, and that is important. You're still standing. You just you might not feel like you're still standing. There might be those moments where you're like, oh, I feel so broken. What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you because you're not broken. You're still here. You're still standing. You're still bending. Pivots aren't failures. It's just a new direction that you need to go. So for me, I needed to start this podcast. I literally have a sign on the wall right over here on a gold bordered bulletin board. It says Blue Chair Conversations Podcast 2024. Well, guys, it's 2025. And I didn't launch this podcast in 2024. But then my mom died. And I know I mentioned this before, so I'm not going to get into detail. It made me realize I needed to pivot. I needed to live life big. I needed to fill it with love and laughter and adventure. And I also needed to give others the permission to do the same. Not that I'm in any authoritative position within your life to say, hey, I give you permission. But sometimes hearing it from someone makes you go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I really want to do that. Or I don't want to say should, because should can become a negative word, but man, I really wanted to do that and I haven't. Why haven't I? I want to give you the permission that you can do the things that you want to do. You can live life big and full of adventure. I invite you to reflect. I invite you to reflect on your life right now. And maybe it's looking into the past, or maybe you're currently in a storm where you need to bend. So where in life do you feel like you need to pivot? Is it your job? Is it relationships? Is it your health? For me, I have had to pivot a lot lately. My health hasn't been the greatest, but I also have to admit that I wasn't taking great care of myself like I know how to do and that I motivate others to do. So I pivoted. I started putting the focus back on me. Where in my life can I pivot to better serve me so I can live out my God-given purpose? Where can I pivot? Pivoting is not breaking, it's just bending. I have questions for you guys, and I have them written down so I wouldn't forget. So where in your life do you feel like you're bending? And what is one way you can give yourself grace today instead of expecting perfection? This is something I have to work on all the time. Perfection. I always thought if I could just be perfect, then everybody would love me, everybody would like me, everybody would accept me. Why? Why do I want to put so much energy and expectations on others for the expectations of myself? It's time to have a relationship with yourself and be okay with yourself changing your mind. Because changing your mind is a pivot in the mindset. Nobody has to give you permission to do that. but you have to be okay because change is inevitable. It's inevitable. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. Have you ever run yourself so much into the ground, you've worked a lot, you're not eating, you're not taking care of yourself, and then all of a sudden you get sick? And you're like, I don't have time to get sick. But you weren't doing the things to make sure that you were staying healthy. So the universe was like, time to stop. My mom would always say, Erin, if you don't slow down, the universe is going to slow you down for you. I was like, I got it, Mom, I got it. And sure enough, the universe would stop me in my tracks, would throw a detour or a wrench in my mechanics, and I was sick. And I was like, oh, I should have taken care of myself. I should have pivoted. Pivoting is not failure. It's not breaking. You're simply bending the right direction for you. If people don't like it, that's their problem. And that's hard to accept. It's hard to be like, oh, they have a problem with that. They may have a problem with what you're doing. It's not that they have a problem with you. And my dad, love my dad, he would always tell me growing up, what you perceive in others, you perceive in yourself. And I was like, what? But as I've gotten older and I've experienced life and being human and all of the different things that have happened in my life and learning how to pivot and change and shift, when you reflect on someone else, you're like, I don't like that about that person. Well, you're just reflecting it on you, right? So when you perceive something in someone else, you're perceiving it in yourself. It's like a mirror. You're actually holding up a mirror and you're like, oh. So let the judgment of others on you not be your problem. Pivot. Don't be afraid to pivot to make your life whole, to make your life work for you and what you want out of this life. You all, I talked about the dash in my last episode. We don't know how big that dash is. It could be very short, it could be very long, it could be really long, but we don't know. And we have to fill it with the things that bring us joy, laughter, adventure, and love and happiness. And if something isn't working out for you, I invite you to pivot. So I'm going to ask the questions again. Where in your life do you feel like you're bending? And what is one thing you can give yourself grace today instead of expecting perfection? For me, it's pivoting my podcast. I'm okay with that, and I hope you are too. I want to thank you for sitting in the blue chair with me today. You're never alone in the seasons of growth. You're not breaking. You're simply bending. And next time, we're going to talk about what it means to let go of old labels and titles that no longer fit in who you're becoming. So join me here on the next episode of Blue Chair Conversations. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you and your support. And if you want to contact me, you can either comment below on this podcast or you can DM me on Instagram under The Erin Bear. See you next time on Blue Chair Conversations. Have a great day.